So David, aside from irrigation, do we have any other options at all for meeting the food demands?
Indeed, we do have other options. At IWMI we use scenario modeling with a model called WaterSim to look at future water supply and demand. What the model tells us is that if we continue our changes in dietary habits to feed the additional 1.5 billion people, that's about 40% more population, we have to grow twice as much food. And then the question is, how do you get the water to grow twice as much food? And there are several options to do that. But first let me start with the demand side of the equation. Do we really need twice as much food? So one way, in fact, to meet future water demand is to reduce the food consumption demand, either by changing our diets or by not wasting as much food as it moves from field to our dinner plates. So for example, in Asia, what's driving food consumption a lot is just this change in diets to more livestock products, which will require much more feed. So we have a shift in production from food grains into feed grains. And that's why you have to grow so much more food in the future. It is also striking that lots of food is just lost between the farmer's field and the food we throw away on our dinner plate. So in fact, it is possible to reduce that future demand for food. However, I think we'd be not prudent if we were to assume that that wouldn't happen, because all trends show that hugely increasing demand for food.
So essentially, even if we reduce waste, we still need to produce more.
We still need to produce more food, maybe not 100% more food, something less. However, I think we have to be prepared in the future for a lot more food production. We have basically a few different options to do that. One is to expand rain-fed or irrigated areas, right? Build more dams and more infrastructure. A second way is to increase the productivity on existing rain-fed and irrigated lands. And of course, a third way is to trade for products. So for example, why not have the food grown in areas that are favorable for production? For example, Argentina, or perhaps across Russia or Ukraine or the United States. Why not have those big food producing areas? And then countries, as they get wealthy, say doing computer products, actually use that money to import food. What was striking during the recent food price rise is that countries in Asia actually closed their borders to trade. Right? So the reaction was, hey, we have to grow the food here in our own countries. And in fact, my sense is the political system, the global political system, the way we've got it these days, will not allow us to rely on trade when really the crunch hits. So what we'll see is that countries, in fact countries do have policies very much to produce their own food in their countries, and that has a direct impact on water resources. Now, the other enticing option is to say, well, given that we have scarce water resources, why don't we look at rain-fed agriculture and improve rain-fed agriculture? And in fact, there are plenty of opportunities to do this, and I think that should take absolute priority. But what our model shows is two things. Even if we were to get great yield increases on rain-fed land, we still could not reach that 100% increase in food. Secondly, it shows that it's a risky proposition and that we have not done that in the past. We've not increased that productivity gain in the past. Secondly, we have climate change looming and increased variability in precipitation, making it more difficult to achieve those gains. So what it points to is trade is difficult, rain-fed agriculture is difficult, it points to irrigation. Finally, given that there's limited water for irrigation to expand, it says what we have to do in irrigation is improve productivity of both our land and water resources on existing irrigation systems.
And can you tell me the best ways that we can do that?
I think we have, and we'll get into this hopefully a little bit more, but right now we have productivity levels that are in many irrigation, not all, that are well behind their potential. What we'll need is, I think, basically better management and better governance reform in those irrigations that give farmers the right incentives, good water service to produce more food with less water, good access to market, good prices for the produce. So several things have to go together to achieve those gains. But in fact, it is possible. If we look at the best producers on irrigation, if we could get those kind of gains, it is possible.
So David, do the computer models actually tell us what the scope is for increasing productivity from irrigated land?
Well, in fact, what we know is the present levels of productivity. For example, in South Asia is about 2.7 tons per hectare. The real potential might be on the order, and you do see this, farmers getting 7 or 8 and more tons per hectare. But a lot of times that's just not practical to reach. So what we do is say, well, the practical potential might be to double that 2.7, and in the model we reached almost 5 tons per hectare. Still well below the biophysical potential, but still a reach, still something we have to do much better in order to produce.